Welcome to The Longer Game, the only show that's dedicated to the future of retail. We bring on real-life people in the retail industry. We talk about their experiences, we share their stories, we apply it to what's currently going on in the market, and we look towards the future of retail. You could say it's retail reimagined. My name is Michael Marr. I run a customized, done-for-you service agency called Cartology that helps brands win on Amazon. Now, while my expertise stems in the Amazon field, we bring on a wide array of guests because retail is expansive. You've got e-commerce. Yes, you've got marketplaces like Amazon. You've also got brick and mortar that is evolving. You've got logistics. You've got technology, finance. There are so many aspects to retail, and it's complicated. So we're here to bring you the entire story. Do you think that you have an interesting story and you'd like to tell it on the podcast? Then go to thelongergame.com and fill out a form to be a guest on the show today. You can catch The Longer Game on any social channels: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and our website, thelongergame.com. We've got all awesome guests on this show, so that I will promise. Are you ready to hear more about the future of retail? Let's get down to business. Welcome, everybody, to The Longer Game, the podcast where we talk all about retail. That means e-commerce. That means Amazon. That means in-store retail. There are so many different facets to retail. And so we have on a myriad of different guests to talk about their experiences. Maybe it's a brand, maybe it's an agency. And today we have Caroline Grace on the show, who's founder at Product and Prosper. And she's going to tell you all about what she does. Welcome to the show, Caroline. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michael. I'm so excited that you're calling all of this retail, like all of these omni-channel channels. Well, and they are all retail.
Yes.
And we have to build for all of these different channels. Let me tell you a little bit about what we do at Product and Prosper. We are go-to-market partners for early stage and growth phase CPG brands. We're really hyper-focused on building or rebuilding a stronger foundation to scale from into multiple different channels, one of them being physical retail. What we typically see, right, is that brands either have a really big idea, but no path to get there, or they've hit growth plateaus in scaling their brand, either from a sales perspective or a channel perspective. So for example, right, they can't access a certain channel, or they can't get past a certain revenue number, or they can't become profitable at a certain revenue number. And that's really what we're focused on, is uncovering the root cause of stalled growth or uncovering the path to building a bigger vision for brands. So all of what we're going to talk about, and we were talking a little bit before the show, but everything we're going to talk about today is really, really like fundamental and foundational to everything that we do at Product and Prosper. So I'm super excited to chat with you.
Man, you just said a bunch of stuff. I'm like, I want to dig on into all these things. So this is going to be a good chat. I can already tell. When you talk about foundational stuff, I hear in my head, there's nothing new under the sun. You can go back 2,000 years and look at humans. Okay, this is like super macro view. We're not even at retail yet, but look at humans. And I mean, retail still existed. It was a market. People went, bought stuff. There are some basic things that are always going to be true. We need food. We need water. We need clothing. We need shelter. And ultimately, I think we need love, community, those kinds of things that bring us together. We're different as humans in the animal kingdom because we really thrive on that connectedness and the community. But I think about the fact that same problems we have now. There's wars and there's famine and there's disease and people are at each other's throats. I don't think that's really changed that much over the past 2,000 years. I think it's always been that way. Certainly we've evolved in some ways, but those things have always been there. We're just more connected now and we see a lot more of that. And maybe some of those things change, but we still fight and agree on a lot of the same things. So I think nothing's new under the sun. And that's true for Amazon. What's your goal? You want to grow or you want to get profitable? Those are kind of your two goals. I mean, you might have, brand awareness, something else. Let's talk about how we get there. Now, there might be some different levers to pull, but that always feels similar to me. Does that resonate with you?
Yes. And it's actually something I've thought a lot about. I think yes, there really is not as much new under the sun, but the flavor of it has changed over time. And what I mean by that is, we now, many of us, fortunately, live in a time where a lot of our basic needs are met:
Mm.
food, water, physical safety. And so I think that the flavor of the types of businesses that are being built right now are differentiated by, actually, if we think about like Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Hmm.
I think the top one's like self-actualization or self-realization or something like that. It comes back to like not just choosing an idea that's already been built, but in a flavor that is actually self realization and supports the self actualization of the operator building it. So, one of the things we've been exploring a lot is like there are kind of three different pillars of scaling a brand. There's the strategy, there are the systems, and then there's the soul. And the soul is really, I think, what is differentiating products, even if there are products, right? Like, you know, peanut butter has been made 400 million times over the last hundreds of years. Well, maybe not. I think it was invented in like the 1900s. Maybe that's not a good
I was gonna
example.
go with you.
Bread.
I was totally gonna support you on that.
Yeah, bread, I think. Let's do bread. Bread's a good one. Bread's been made hundreds of times, hundreds of thousands of times.
Honestly, millions. It's 2,000 years
Right,
ago. Bread was like one of the staples for people. So
right, exactly. And side note, like we're also super into sourdough bread now. I haven't gotten into it, but I'm
yeah,
curious if you
we're
have.
like we go in the cycles of like we're gonna go into the process stuff, and now we're coming back to more. At least some of the themes are going back to those like whole ingredient food style stuff that like people kind of didn't know maybe quite all the science to, but there wasn't all this tech to take you away from it. And so we've strayed, and now it's like, oh, maybe we've got some scope creep or concept creep in terms of being efficient. Now we need to bring it back to being healthier. I love good
Yeah,
sourdough, by the way.
same.
It's a place here that makes a sourdough English muffin. A little
Oh,
bit of like butter and honey. My wife will make those, and I'm like, this tastes like a donut.
oh my gosh, that sounds so
Yeah,
delicious.
it's
I'm gonna
pretty
have
it's
to
pretty
visit and
good.
purchase.
Yes.
But what I'm trying to say is, even though bread as the container, as the medium of creation has been around for hundreds and thousands of years, like the person making it now has a different reasoning why and a different approach as to how to make it
Mm.
that differentiates the product or the product, the recipe, the bread, even if, right, that has been made hundreds and hundreds of times. And so I really think it comes down to, yes, the market's saturated. Yes, like everything has been done. Yes, there's really only two things that we need to look for: growth or scale. I believe those are the two things you said, right?
Yeah, scale or
Um,
profitability.
yeah,
Growth or
thank you.
profitability. Yeah.
Yeah, growth or
It's
profitability.
way oversimplified, but I'm just like, let's keep
Way
it simple. Then
oversimplified.
then we
That's
can
okay.
then we can go from there.
Yeah, but the way to get there depends again on the strategy, the systems, and the soul of the operator or the operating team building it.
It feels like people, and by people I mean brands, often want to put the cart before the horse. And so they might be hyper focused on sales, but they don't actually know what they're about. Why are we making our product? You might be making something and it might be a good product or a great product, but why? And are you conveying that message to the consumer? And then I think there is a converse problem of someone just has a hit product and it sells really well, and they have to like backpedal. So they didn't necessarily focus on sales. They focused on the brand or whatever, and then maybe it's not a problem. It's just they start selling well, and then they have to go through and build all these processes and systems to make sure they can keep up with demand, and that can kill a business over demand, or too high of a demand. Hyper growth is not necessarily something you want because you can't keep up with it. And I've heard of so many people who are like, we got this $1 million Walmart PO and we were bankrupt. I'm sure you've seen
Oh yeah.
that happen all the time.
Yeah, oh, they're horror stories. Yeah, I mean, it's tough because I think it's so situational. So I'm not sure if I can fully comment
Sure.
on those different situations. Like they're a little bit overgeneralized. But I do want to go back to this hyperfixation on sales. Sales will come when you have created something that resonates. Those questions that, like, the How I Built This Guy Raz
Hmm.
podcast at, and they end with, right? how much is attributed to luck and how much is attributed to hard work. I actually think they should probably add a third one,
Mm.
which is like how much is it attributed to just holding your vision of what you're building and letting go of the pivots and the hows and like the things that you have to do in order to hold that vision and just focus on that vision. I say all this just to kind of like, you know, our hyperfixation on, for example, in the area that I work a lot of the time is within physical retail on things like sales or retail sales or new channel access is a lot of the how and not the vision. And usually, if we are looking for something to save the business, there more channel, more distribution is not going to save a business that hasn't figured out
Mm.
either their vision or their resonance, right? So it's the positioning you're talking about, but it's also the founder's vision, the operating team's vision, and letting go of the method that they've gotten to get it to this point. One of the things I see so much is like to scale a brand within D2C requires a different kind of product than it does to build a brand within retail. The shelf is a very different game,
Mm-hmm.
and so the how you merchandise a product is very different than how you would package and sell it within
You can get
the
away with a
digital
lot
space.
on the direct to consumer side that you could not on the retail side.
Absolutely. Right. And like that transition is going to usually cause you to have to change pieces of a product that you've had some success with. And
Mm.
that's oftentimes the resistance to making those changes is oftentimes one of the big reasons why brands are channel dependent and can't scale into new channels like retail. I'm not sure if you see that on Amazon, right? Like hyperfixation on a certain product type. Um, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I love what you're saying, and a lot of I've talked with someone I had on the podcast someone who's a food and beverage consultant, and this has really stuck with me. Just something that she said is a lot of people want to design for like good enough, like we just need to get on the shelf, and it's like, yeah, but that's your opportunity, and someone doesn't pick up your product because they don't like the design, or it may have even been you that posted this, or I don't know, maybe it was someone else, but it was like taking a screenshot of a shelf. I think it was you. Tell me if I'm wrong.
It was probably me.
Okay,
I would take so many shelf pictures.
taking a screenshot of a shelf, and you said, this is why you don't design in a vacuum. And it was
Yes,
a brand.
that was my post.
Okay, good. I'm glad it was yours and not somebody else's.
Yeah,
But
wow,
it was
I'm glad it's resonating.
there was a brand, and their packaging really stood out. Everything else was like white, gray, whatever, very bland, and theirs was bold. And it was like, yeah, that seems so basic to think about, but people are so focused on the product, some of those pieces, instead of like, what do we want to do? Like, we want to make people healthier. We want to get our products into people's hands. Okay, well, I like more natural muted tones, but maybe everyone else is doing that. So maybe we should do something different. And it doesn't matter how you get it to the customer as much as the vision is, like you're saying, the vision is held true to. But like this woman said, so that post made me think of people want to just get good enough get the packaging good enough to be on the shelf, but then they miss opportunity. People don't pick them up. They don't get the attention they need. And then guess what? The retailers are like, yeah, you didn't sell enough velocity, so boom, you're out. And you're like, great, now what?
Yeah. Let me comment on that quote that you're saying from this other this food and beverage consultant. I agree with her sentiment. However, I think that you can actually just be good enough to launch within a digital realm. To get to market, you can be good enough. And as long as you're going to improve after from the feedback and the results that you get.
Mm.
You cannot be good enough, just good enough, and not know the strategy behind your shelf presence within retail because the limited space allocated to you and the limited set of brands that are on shelves necessitates you to have an opportunity to be like better than anything out there on this in this category in order to continue sustaining placement within retail and continue growing within retail. And so I think that what's going to happen within the next few years is I think we're going to actually see a slower growth approach. We've been starting to see it, but I think that businesses are going to start matching, we were talking about this before, it's going to start matching not like the high speed exit growth trajectory that we've been seeing within VC, CPG brands, that sort of thing. We're going to start seeing brands that support the lifestyle and the authenticity of the founder. I think a couple really good examples are like, I think they are VC backed, but they're really good examples of remaining authentic, but also incorporating consumer feedback, like being very digitally
Yeah.
focused before they're going to retail, because they have to have that good enough and then better, better, better in order to succeed within retail. Midday Squares is always a really good example.
They are VC
Um,
backed.
they are,
Yeah.
yeah. Everyday Dose is a really good example.
Mm.
I believe they're VC backed as well. I'm
Okay.
not totally sure. Don't quote me on that, but
Great.
right,
Writing
those
it
are
down.
founder
Quote,
led
Caroline
brands.
Grace said, every
Don't know. Um, those are really good examples of like founders who have still remained authentic to them as the builder, but also utilized feedback and also built a really good base of a following that shows that they have a good product before they go off into retail. So I agree. Yes, good enough. I think that a lot of brands want to just be good enough because it validates their product and it validates their vision, and it's like easy to be good enough. But I really think to succeed within retail, you need to really be at the top of your game, and we can't be rushing a lot of the time to get distribution before a product is ready and the systems in place are ready to scale.
And that was really her point, is like, you to be on the shelf, you can't just be good enough. But that's a really great distinction that you made, is like, I could launch a product digitally and maybe not quite have my package figured out, but I can sell it well because I have someone's captive attention on a direct to consumer site. You do not have that in a Kroger. You do not have it in a Fred Meyer. You don't have it in a Walmart and a Target, a Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever your product is. You do not have that. You've got thousands of products. I was going to say hundreds of thousands, but I don't know. You've got thousands of products that you're competing with, and someone's there to pick up probably multiple things. So they're not just thinking about you. You don't have that committed eye space. And that's something that I think brands that go from direct to consumer to retail, like you said, like, hey, well, this is work for us here. And it's like, great, that's not going to work in retail. And they're not thinking about
Yeah.
that. And you said at the very beginning, I love that we're calling all these things retail, talking about omni-channel. Yes, you have to have a consistent brand across all these channels, but consistent voice. But what works, pack size, unit count, whatever, what works in direct to consumer, what works in retail may not work in the other. And you have to be thinking about those. And it's for more than just like, what does the consumer want in that moment? You have to think about tactical stuff. Like, if you're selling on Amazon and you're selling on Walmart, and Walmart lowers their price, guess what Amazon's going to do? If you're a third-party seller, they're going to remove your buy box. If you're a one-party seller and they have the price, guess what's happening to your price? So none of those things are in a vacuum. So there are multiple reasons why you have to think about, like, what does my presence look like across multiple channels?
Yes, I'm so glad you said that. Presence is one of our P's
Okay.
in our 10 P's of like building a brand, a successful brand. But yeah, I think I want to go back to, it like you don't have to scale to multiple channels. Why are we looking at retail? That's one of the big questions I ask. Um, I ask founders when they come to me is like, okay, great. Why retail? Why do you want to get into retail? And there's a couple different common answers that I tend to see. One is they want to get into retail because they believe it equates easier sales and higher sales. More
Mm.
distribution in their mind equates like a simpler scaled business and more profitability. That's actually a false narrative. A lot of the time within retail, it requires such a structure and system to bridge the digital and the physical that like it isn't actually easier to operate at that scale, and you have to have a really solid foundation in place in order to make it profitable. And so like that usually is not a reason I will say, hey, let's bring this brand into retail. The other reason that I see brands wanting to go into retail, and I'll bring this back to your point in a second, is
Take all the time you need.
okay. The other reason I see brands wanting to go into retail is because retail represents the distillation of market resonance. So what I mean by that is like the brands who have made it into retail and are distributed nationwide and have buyers seeking them out are the ones that have succeeded. It means to a founder that what they've created really truly has a
Mm.
purpose and matters and people care about it and they want it. And that's the best feeling as a founder. However, retail needs to come at the right time, and you don't need retail if that's not fitting the lifestyle and the strategy and how you want to operate within the business yourself and the role you want to have. It creates a lot of complexity. So I think you could focus, like for example, on just Amazon and Walmart and just be a D2C brand.
Yeah.
Still, is it sexy in the narrative right now of how to grow a brand? No. But like again, it has to go back to that soul. It has to go back to that vision. It has to come back to the authenticity of what makes your brand, of like, what do you want to be actually doing every single day within this business? And that should dictate a lot more of the strategy than just following and trying to get more channels or more distribution. Because, right, retail A is more complex and it requires you to operate at a higher game.
It's also really expensive to get
Totally.
in. Like what? Easily a 6-7 figure cost to like actually get into retail and get large distribution, like the long term, not going to be profitable for 18 to 24 months. Like it takes
Bare minimum.
bare
Yeah.
minimum. Okay, there you go. You heard it here first. Bare minimum, 18 to 24 months. And like a lot of people, again, are like, yeah, we're in it. But it gets really tough in the midst of not being profitable. And then there's stress. And then if you
Yeah.
are not holding your vision, to your point, are you caving in the wrong areas? Are you holding on to the wrong things because you're not focused on the vision and you're focused on the product and the what specifically, the how or the what, but not the why of what you're doing? And I've seen brands who they are very focused on their why. And that helps them. I mean, certainly you learn over time as an entrepreneur for the past 15 years. I've gotten better at handling failure. I'm not always great at it, but it's going to happen. And I have to be willing to be able to fail to also get the successes. So even if like my success rate is 10%, if it's a really great 10%, then that kind of helps to overcome the 90%. But brands that are really clear on their why, they're able to say, okay, like this product didn't work. Cool. We're still doing these other things and we're always going to have more. We're always going to have more things that we can push or new products that we can create to hit that narrative or to hit that goal. And so they're creating their own narrative. I misspoke, but they're creating their own narrative of like, here's what I'm doing and how we get there, the channels, all those things, it will come in the right time. And I can't tell you how many brands have said, I'm so glad we didn't get into Target when we wanted to because we weren't ready. It would have crushed us. This thing would have been a problem. And it's always hard in the moment to say, oh, that this didn't work out. But like maybe that really was intentional. Maybe that it was good that you didn't get there when you wanted to get there.
Yeah. I've heard that many, many times as well. Yeah. And I'm also a big proponent of like actually saying no to retailers when you're not ready and when you know you're not ready. Those opportunities will come back around when you're ready. But if you're overextending yourself, your inventory, et cetera, your financials to make a retailer work, there's a time and place to do that when you have enough sustenance in the rest of the business. But there's also a time and place to say, hey, let's pause on this. Like, actually, we're making some. Let's let the brand grow, and buyers will be very, very understanding of those types of decisions. In my experience,
Sustenance and resonance. Those are two things that I've heard you say. Like, does your business have the capability, systems, process, whatever, to actually handle the volume? But will it also hit with consumers? You said something about brands that are people that are going to stores to look for these brands' products so they can get them. It becomes much less about, and that's where I feel like we start to see brand loyalty because now they've got a connection. It's no longer, I'm going to Costco to get food for the week and, I see midday squares, and so I'm going to pick them up. It's, hey, I'm going to make my trip this month to Costco or however frequently you go. Maybe you go every week. I'm not judging. But you go to Costco and you're like, I need to make sure I get this midday squares pack because I want that. My family loves it. We need to have those. It's a great treat. It's healthy, whatever the case might be. But now you've built that and people start to craft their decisions around that instead of it just being an afterthought.
Yep. You have to either build for replacement or for, oh gosh, I lost my other R. It's either replacement or additive. So products that succeed are either a replacement or an improvement on what's existing
Okay.
in somebody's routine, or they are a additive to their routine to make it better. And so, yes, that's exactly, you need that strategy first in your product and your positioning in order to succeed within retail. And then you're totally right. What we typically look for when brands are ready for retail, and this is what buyers are going to be looking for as well,
Okay.
they're looking for capability, credibility, and cash. What I mean by capability is like, can you actually distribute the product and get the product to the store and bring customers to the store? Credibility is more like, are you a credible enough brand to have enough brand awareness to succeed within retail? Do you have enough buy-in from customers, investors, consumers, other buyers to get on shelf and actually succeed on shelf? And the cash is like, do you have enough cash flow to support this new channel launch? And also, is there enough cash potential that you can prove to the buyer in order to make them include you in their set? So I'm so glad that you pointed out capability. It's the brands that succeed within retail have capability, credibility, and cash flow, and cash potential that they can prove to the buyer.
You talked about brands building something based around a lifestyle. And I'd like to dive a little bit deeper there. But one quick thought I had is we're thinking about trajectory of brands and like what it takes and timing and all this stuff. Well, you know all those brands that just like seem like overnight successes and all of a sudden they're just everywhere? Yeah. That's not just rarely ever true. Like maybe 0.1%. It's usually a decade of being persistent, knowing your why, showing up even when people are saying no, when the money doesn't look good, but being willing to reformulate. Like that consistency, that is what we talked about this before we ever hit record. But like, you want to get in the gym, okay, you want to get ripped. Well, like, yeah, that's your goal, but why aren't you doing that? Oh, well, you show up, twice a week, and then maybe you skip a week. Like, you need consistency, and consistency over the long term. Once a week for 3 years, I think is better than like 5 times a week and then nothing for 3 weeks. Like that consistency will build a routine and it will give you more why for and more. Let me put it this way. People often say, I just need motivation. No, you don't. You need discipline. You need discipline. And when you're disciplined, it will build motivation into it. So you want to lose weight, you got to change your diet and you got to be meticulous about that. It's not, I've done that before. It's not really motivating because I'm not seeing any change. But then I start to see a little change. I'm like, okay, I can hold on a little bit more. I start to feel better. Okay, that becomes a part of it. And the discipline is what creates the motivation. That's a little bit of putting the cart before the horse. But any brand that like pops up out of nowhere, it's never been the case.
Yeah, Michael, I think you were a YouTuber in another life, or like a motivational speaker.
Maybe I will
Something
be.
like that.
I need
Yeah,
to just
maybe one
put
day.
more videos on YouTube.
Well, maybe that's your vision, and like that's the how.
I
More
like
vision,
it. I like it. We're
more
working
videos on
this out
YouTube.
right now.
Yeah, workshopping. Um, it's interesting because it's like the conversation on on passion, right? Motivation is very similar to passion. You don't go out and find your passion. You build passion once you start doing something over time and get invested in something over time. That's how passion's built over the long run. I can't quote exactly who said that, but I've read a couple different articles and books around how do you A, find your purpose, and B, find passion It's not about showing up and like saying or looking for the passion. It's about building on little things that over time result into a larger passion or motivation. And I think that really comes down to like the strategy of building a brand. Everything can come back to the strategy of building a brand. There are rungs of expansion that need to occur as you're going and growing, right? That are going to feel slow when they're happening, but you're going to look back and think about how fast they actually were. I'll just give an example, right? Within retail, there are kind of three different segments of retail in terms of size. There are independents, there are regional chain retailers, and then there are large chain retailers. And then there's lots of different kinds of retailers within those, but they're basically three different sizes. And there's a couple different strategies that you can take to grow up through those pieces. The one that I prefer is slow and steady. Build a base of independence, prove your worth, start really making sure that you have velocity and a distribution network, even if it's at a smaller retail level. Then go to regional chain retailers, then go to national retailers, because that's the strategy that builds brands that seem like they're everywhere. Either that, you're going to need a lot of cash to manufacture feeling like you're everywhere. And so I think going back to the gym analogy, right, there's always fast tracks to take in getting ripped, right?
Yeah.
I'm just going to like
take a bunch of fat burners
right?
and steroids. Yeah, there we go.
Ozempic, right? There's always going to be like fast tracks to get there. And the same thing, right? There are fast tracks to manufacture seeming like you're everywhere. You go hire a PR agency, you start like seeding influencers, et cetera. There's people who manufacture this. But, right, how do you build resonance over time? And it comes back to like, what is your end goal? Do you want to feel good, look good, or do you just want to look good? And the like process of that doesn't matter as much. Coming back to a brand, right? Do you want to create something that's sustainable over time? Do you want it to support your lifestyle? Or do you want it to be a big flashy exit? And there's just different strategies that you can choose. There's not one that's right or wrong ultimately, but it comes down to like vision, what we've been talking about. Like what do you want to build? What are you doing? Why are you doing this?
If you think about American Idol winners, how many of them have gone on to be superstars, like legit superstars? And how many winners have gone on to be superstars? I can name one. Kelly Clarkson, the very first one. And I think she probably had a really great why and knew what she wanted. I think a lot of the stars that won were thrust into it. They had no base. And so they got really big. They got some stuff behind them. Maybe there was not consistent work over time or passion that was built in. So it just like kind of fell flat and they're like, okay, well, I guess this is it. Carrie Underwood's been super successful, but I think she was like 8th. So she had a passion, a vision, probably, I'm guessing, and making an assumption here, but then was able to build and grow off that. I've been digging into more songs written by this guy named John Bellion. I'm sure some people have heard of him, but he's written for the Jonas Brothers and Miley Cyrus and Dua Lipa and Jungkook and all these different stars. And he had his own albums, but he did it. He's been doing it. I think he's like 34 now. So he's been doing it for 20 years since he was 14 and just kept doing it. And had this period of he wanted more because he was doing the writing and the producing. He wanted more from the record label, his points, as you say, from like streaming. And they're like, yeah, no, we get 80%, you get 20. He's like, great. Well, I'll never make another song again, like as an artist. And he said they went, ha, click, and hung up the phone. He's like, great. Like, I screw you. Like, I will. It's not exactly what he said, but he's like, I'm out. So he just went and wrote for a bunch of other artists and just put his head down. Wrote Ghost and wrote Anyone, all these huge Justin Bieber hits, and just kept going. And what came back around was, I guess he was with Capitol, and they're like, why doesn't John want to work with any Capitol artists? And there had been management changes over time. So like maybe he wasn't ready to go big with them at that time, and he was willing to wait. Someone was like, why is that? And they're like, oh, well, he wants more control over his masters. And they're like, okay, well, he's worth way more to us making music if we get 20 and he gets 80 than not anything happening at all. So like that to me is an example of consistency over time. He's super passionate. He knows what works now. He knows what doesn't work. And he's able to write great hits and understands the process better. And he's like, I can now get into a room and be like, you know what? I don't really like what you're doing as an artist. And he's not worried about them paying him because he's being rude. He's just like, hey, I don't like this. And it's more authentic. And people like what he's doing because of that. Like that to me is consistency over time, and that passion piece of building something and doing something, you like it, but then you get better and you see that, and then you build like an extreme passion, and then you're like more decisive. You've got better stuff. You can go out and really crush execution. That's what I think puts people at the top of their game.
Michael, were you in the music industry? Like you know so much about music.
I am a musician. I didn't get far in the music industry. Part of my story is I wanted to be a famous rock star. I am not.
Oh, cool.
And so
not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, it's still possible. But I was in a band, and I'm like, I want to, blow this thing up. And I dropped out of school, and then the quarter that I dropped out of college, the band broke up. So I was like, my wife was like, girlfriend at the time, now wife, 21 years later, she's like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. I think I'm just going to make music and figure it out. And she's like, I don't know if that doesn't sound like the best idea. And I ended up going back and, long story short, became an entrepreneur, didn't even use my degree. But yeah, like that's something that I've dug into, and like people who write songs and produce, like there's so much more behind the scenes that people don't know. They're like, oh, I love this artist. And it's like, they're a great artist, but there's a team of people behind them writing songs, producing, that are across. You go and look at all these hits that these people wrote, like Ten Rock and John Bellion, and I think Pete Nappy is his name, or Monsters and Strangers. Like go look at their, on like Tidal or Spotify, look at their discography of like what they've written. You're like, oh my gosh, I know every single one of these songs, and it's different styles, and it's from these people who have just been doing stuff consistently but have passion. So
you only really see the tip of the iceberg, right? With anything, with any passion, with any project. That's so fascinating. I'm so like, you got to apply your own. One, it's really great that your girlfriend at the time, wife, stuck with you through.
Yes, yeah, I'm very blessed. Music. God has blessed me very greatly. So
yeah, but also, I wonder how you could apply like what we're talking about, consistency and discipline, to this. I don't know if it's still a dream for you, but to music. And I don't know if you do that still, but
yeah, that's something I've thought about. I've even thought about more recently. I started playing publicly again. I've just gone and volunteer at my church, and we'll play there. And drums was like my first instrument, so that's what I do. But I sing and play piano and write, and I want to get back into it. I'm like, what? I just need to start doing stuff. Like I do play somewhat regularly, but at home. And so that is something that I've thought about. Like maybe I do just do that consistently. I'm not like worried about where it's going to go. But there's certainly a gifting there that I could use to be. Ultimately, I feel like my call is to use my gifts to glorify God. But certainly, there's something that I could do in there that would be beneficial to people around me, whatever. So yeah, maybe it's definitely on my mind, which is funny that it came up. So I like that you're prompting me. That's good. I need that. I need accountability.
I'll follow up about it.
You should. You should follow up about it. Yeah.
6 months. Yeah, I'm so curious. So tell me a little bit more about what you do with brands right now within your business. And like, does any of your experience within music influence, right? If we're thinking about authenticity and how you're building, how does your experience in music influence how you've built the business that you have and how you work with brands? Or have you ever thought about how that connection interfaces?
It certainly helped me as an entrepreneur, because one of the things I was doing was trying to get my band to be at bigger shows or bigger opportunities and break through or get a record deal. Like those are the things that were happening. And I was with a group of guys at the time where we were all young dudes and butting heads and a lot of ego. And so we did not always work well together. You hear about that with a lot of bands. And I think a lot of groups that are adults are really just, if they're men, they're really boys. Or maybe women that are girls. It's like your ego gets in the way. That's not really like being an adult. That's being a child. And so that was part of it. I've learned to work with people better and gotten ego out of the way. But also being able to say, hey, I'm confident in what I can bring to the table. We help brands right now manage that whole Amazon channel. Like we can go super deep into that. We don't touch anything else, just Amazon. But you need a strategy that's going to be created well. And to me, that's like, what do we target and what do we go after in terms of getting traffic to your page? And then are your pages conversion ready? And then we have all the logistics in place to make sure that you can actually fulfill that. Some of the things that we've been talking about. And then we go out and execute on that. And there's so many
Awesome.
agencies, people, whatever, who are like, yeah, we can do this. And they sell you on something and shiny, whatever. And that's not what we do, because they often don't deliver, and we will deliver, or we'll come back and say, hey, we can't do this because of XYZ, but here's the reasoning why. And people that we've worked with have often said, like, you've taught us so much over this period. They're still not going to be the person to go and run Amazon, but like now we get the whys and the reasoning behind that allows them to go to leadership and get more money for ad spend. Like all those things of like retraining and reframing and just pushing uphill. That was a lot of what I was doing. And there was certainly an organization piece. Like, I'm going to get this CD pressed. Yes, CDs, and get this merch made and whatever, and organize this show. Do we have an email list? Are we sending this stuff out? So like all that was stuff that I could utilize. And it was super, super helpful in my entrepreneurial career. In terms of Amazon, I don't know. I haven't thought that deeply about it, but that certainly is that entrepreneurial spirit, I think, was one of the things that grew during that period that helped me to like, I started in e-commerce 15 years ago because I just hated my job and I knew how to sell music equipment on Amazon, or sorry, on eBay. I would like buy it.
Wow.
I would buy it at like a thrift store or a pawn shop, and I would fix it up. I would sell it. I would like record with it, sell it, make a little bit of money, and then I got and I was like, asked someone who's like, hey, I hate my job. You're doing this with like legit products. Tell me how to do that. And so I learned, and it all got started from there. So
Oh my gosh. See, it like led you into this transitionary path where you are an entrepreneur. Yeah. And you can also like have your music on the side for now. We'll see what happens.
for now, I like that. Yeah, yeah. You're giving me some hope. I can appreciate that. Actually,
Yeah, good. I'm
told
glad.
my daughter today in the car, I was like, you know what, maybe I could be a producer, maybe, and like write songs for people. It would take a while. And she's like, well, why? You can't make that much money. And I was like, well, it would take me like probably 10 to 15 years, but you can make a lot of money if you can write great songs. And I know John
Yeah.
Belling was the example I used before. He's like, I'm rich now, like legit. I have a ton of money. And that's why I can show up in a studio and be like, I don't need this, but here's my honest opinion. And artists like that. They like that authenticity. And that's something that I think has resonated with me is I can show up and be who I am, but also in service to that person and get my ego out of the way, but still say like, look, I get what you're saying here and I recognize that and that is true, but here's the reason why this is happening. And I need you to look at this in just a different way, because if you don't, you're going to drive this into the ground. One of the things is like when someone spends, this is like a super focused example, but Amazon has variations. You can pick, different sizes, colors of things. Well,
Yeah.
oftentimes you'll take one of those variations and drive a bunch of ad spend to it. And the sales don't always get attributed to that specific product, but maybe other variations get sales. So it might
Okay.
look like on your P&L, or if you're looking at like a unit economics, like on our dashboard, we have unit economics. Okay. This product looks negative. So it looks like this is not profitable. We need to stop, advertising this.
Yeah.
No, look across the parent and notice that this ASIN has a lot of ad spend, way more than these
Yeah.
other ones. But this other ASIN has way more sales. How do you think traffic's getting there? It's from that ASIN. It's got a better click through. It's got better opportunity to get people to the page. But then they're maybe upselling or they're buying potentially a cheaper product because it's a better price point. But you have to apply it across that whole parent. Like those are the things that sometimes
Yeah.
people miss, and they hyper focus on profitability of one product, or like ACOS, the advertising cost of sale. Everyone's like, I need a 20% ACOS. And I'm just like, or like, let's say I need a 4-to-1 ROAS. I bet you can guess what my question is. Why?
It's so interesting. I love how and this will translate to like anything you do in the future. You're a translator, right? You've developed such a deep expertise that you can translate and educate on what's happening at the same time, and that's a really unique skill to find in a partner. Um, that's something we talk a lot about within our team. Is like it's not just about getting brands to retail or to market. It's about how do we educate and translate what's happening here and what strategically we need to think about about what's happening in order to like bring up the client or the brand or the founder or the team with us into this next channel or this next plane, or into even the market at large. So yeah, feel free to contact me on LinkedIn, or you can go to productandprosper.com and contact my team there. But yeah, happy to chat more about this. What we really focus on is bringing brands to market in a more stable, foundation building way so that they can get to what their vision and their goals really are, whether that be a new channel or whether that be even bringing a new idea to market. So really, really appreciate the time, Michael. And thanks for having me on. This was a great conversation.
That's it. We don't have anything else for you people, so you don't have to go home, but you got to get out of here. So peace. All right, that was the show. What did you think? That was the longer game. We would love for you to share the show with other people and to leave us a review of the show. So go to iTunes, go to Spotify, you can go to YouTube, comment, leave a review, and share this on any social channels that you are active on and wherever you have influence. We want to share this story and stories like it to as many people as possible. Do you have a compelling story and do you want to come on the podcast and talk about it, and you're in the retail industry, then go to thelongergame.com, fill out a form, and we will contact you about coming on the show. You can find us on any social channels, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and you can go to our website, thelongergame.com, to actually read all of these episodes in blog form in text, because we know not everyone's going to listen. This podcast is brought to you by my agency, Cartology. We are a customized, done-for-you service agency that helps brands win on Amazon. It is super complex selling on the Amazon Marketplace. We help simplify that for you. This podcast is also brought to you by Podcastify Me. They are a full-service podcast production company that designs podcasts around people who are paid for their advice. That is coaches. If you want someone to help create, strategize, and distribute your podcast to the masses, go to podcastify.me to find out more. I've so enjoyed that you've been a part of the conversation and that you've given of your time to hear these people's stories. We'd love for you to share. If you want to find out more, just go to thelongergame.com. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Stay blessed. And until next time, cheers.